What's up and welcome back to another video. Today, I wanted to discuss the anniversary of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, and just where it's at 9 years later. Some even hailing it the worst in the franchise, others, including myself, who find it to be underrated. Also, if you're asking me, of the mainline series, this was the last good Borderlands game. So, what better time to talk about it than today? As just yesterday, October 14th of 2023, the game became 9 years old. Coming off the hooves of Borderlands 2, Gearbox was as hot as they were ever going to be. Borderlands fans were delighted on October 14th, 2014, when the prequel to the fan favorite Borderlands 2 was finally released. To say I was excited for this game would be an absolute understatement. I would have been 11 years old when this one came out, and I can remember just a week after the game came out, I went up to the store with my grandma and she actually got me the game. Being in the 6th grade at the time, you have to take into account the way that I viewed a new game and just games in general was very different than I do today. And I'm 20 for anybody that was curious. Regardless, I had fun with it for a while until I figured out there was barely anything to do besides the story or some side missions. And don't get me wrong, I love questing more than the next guy. I, like many others, fell off the pre-sequel and returned later after it was fixed and, quote-unquote complete. But once returning a couple years later on the Xbox One, I was able to properly play the game as it was meant to be played. And when I say it was meant to be played, I think you all know what I'm talking about. And we haven't seen any major changes to the pre-sequel since. I will say though that they did add a code for the Heartbreaker into Borderlands the pre-sequel, and I will go ahead and throw that code up on the screen now. It's only available for the next 15 days. This actually expires on Halloween, but this is the only way to get yourselves a Heartbreaker, and it will be max level 70 on your character. All you have to do is type this code into your shift. I just wanted to mention that really quickly because there's no way to legitimately obtain a Heartbreaker in the pre-sequel other than through this code. So that's just a little bonus for any of you guys that are still loving this game. But other than that, we haven't seen any major changes or anything new for the pre-sequel since 2015. So with all that little backstory out of the way, how is it doing 9 years after the fact? Well, I want to say this. The story easily makes this game hoops and bounds above any of the mainline releases afterward. The way Handsome Jack's story was properly fleshed out, we learned why he had it out for the other Vault Hunters, and we got to see the betrayal right before our very eyes, which all bleeds into the very iconic Borderlands 2. And if you haven't seen it, I did a retrospective on where it's at 11 years later because we just recently celebrated its birthday back in September. I think it's important to look back on these classics that many of us hold in high regard, but not only that, to analyze where we're at now and where the game might end up. So as I mentioned, the story. While I think the content and context of the storyline itself is great, it ended up being a lot shorter than what we got in BL2, and some of the story missions just felt dragged out, and it really just lasted a lot longer than it needed to. Seriously, some of these story missions last 30 to 40 minutes. That is just ridiculous. It's so obvious that it's just kind of to pad the story and to give you the plot points that you need. Go do this, open this door, do this thing, do that thing, go across the map. This was very noticeable coming from the second game, which is a shame because I think what the story does have to show for it is awesome. Just some of the maps were a little bit big for their own good, and some story missions do drag for a lot longer than they should. This easily could have been avoided by making some of the longer, earlier chapters shorter. Hell, some of your story missions in Borderlands 2 don't last but a minute long. But I don't want to keep comparing it to the second game, I just have to voice why the story feels so off in this game. In short, despite being great, the pacing is just off. And I can still feel that now going back to the game in 2023. I'll be playing and sometimes I'm just ready to get to the next mission to unlock some other side quests, kill some of the game's badass mini bosses, and farm some unique gear. And the story will just go on and on and on. But that's just my opinion on it. I know a lot of people love it for how it fleshes out Jack and some of the other characters like Athena, Claptrap, Nisha, Wilhelm, etc. But what was that ending?
Now is not the time for bickering, Vault Hunter. is coming, and you will need all the Vault Hunters you can get.
While I think the initial ending with Jack is great, and just those last couple chapters in general are fucking awesome, but I can't help but ask.
War is coming.
Closer to a decade later than we aren't, and still, no war. This cliffhanger ending was more than likely going to bleed into Borderlands 3, so I doubt we will ever get to see this story actually play out. Let's hope I'm wrong though, because I think the idea of a damn near Avengers lineup of Vault Hunters going to war would be nothing short of badass. Borderlands 4, I'm looking at you. Another little tidbit that I liked was when you start TVHM or UVHM, the unique bits of dialogue of Brick, Athena, and the others kind of breaking the fourth wall. Just let me roll this dialogue real quick, and if you've played any of the Borderlands games, you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about.
Please, take this echo device. Now, follow me. I can take you to your contractor liaison.
Tell it again, tell it again.
The whole story? Right now?
Yeah, Lilith is dealing with that Guardian thing and we're bored.
But make it sound more difficult.
And change the names of the chumps you killed.
Okay.
Now that we've discussed the story, I want to share my favorite part of Borderlands, the pre-sequel. By a damn dirt bike in a lawnmower race, it has to be the skill trees and the playable characters. Nisha's ability to dual wield pistols is almost a nod to the Sal players who love their damn handguns. Mixed with her insane aimbot, you also had Athena being a perfect tank class with that badass shield. And Wilhelm with his surveyors and amazing variety of builds. And man, just the damage increases on his skill trees. I haven't really played too much of Wilhelm, but from what I do know, he's an absolute unit. Claptrap is super random, but he's optimal with the right RNG. And who doesn't want to play fucking Claptrap? The game doesn't want you to, but I'd be lying if I said he wasn't my first Vault Hunter in the pre-sequel. All of the characters have unique and cool ways to spice up the game, not to mention the standout DLC characters, who I've honestly not played enough of to comment on. But from what I've heard, they both can be built into moon-mopping motherfuckers. So, given how powerful the other four are, I'll take everyone else's word for it. And then they casually pull out one of the best DLCs in all of Borderlands with the Claptastic Voyage. But there was only one DLC? Unfortunately, 2K Australia had to shut down in April of 2015, just 6 months after the pre-sequel had released. So we never got the other 3 DLCs that were originally announced. So, till this day, we still only have Claptastic Voyage, which I think is an absolute travesty with as much cool shit as this DLC added. You would have thought that may bring some players back in, but unfortunately the end game was just so boring. I'd be stupid to sit here and tell you that the pre-sequel is a perfect game, but I find the Borderlands 3 elitists annoying who can write the pre-sequel off as the worst in the series. While I actually do agree that the game isn't as great as previous titles, I can still go back to it and have a good time. As for Borderlands 3, well, I haven't had it installed for over a year and a half. I think the pre-sequel is a good middle ground for the other Borderlands games that I love so damn much. When I don't feel like playing 1 or 2, I can turn on the pre-sequel and have a hell of a time. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't kinda get sucked back into it for a little bit in the making of this video. I think it's a damn shame that the development cycle was never finished and the game was essentially left completely unfinished. So, in my opinion, if the pre-sequel had finished its full dev cycle, I believe it might be in the same conversation as the games we hail as the greatest in the series. But I can't just sit here and lie. The ground they built this game off of wasn't great. The original game's content was severely lacking compared to the previous game in the series, even without DLC. And because of that, the game does suffer in turn, much like another game that was released not so long ago. So while I still have a very special place in my heart for the pre-sequel, there's a reason it's one of the most dead Borderlands games in 2023. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth of the pre-sequel's current situation. Some months not even being able to crack 500 monthly players on Steam. What we sadly can take away from the decline of all of this though, is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands looks like it's about to follow this exact same pattern, given it has a very similar story with what I would argue is a way worse endgame. It's unfortunate that a game I genuinely enjoy was treated so poorly, and there'll always be that part of me that wishes it was treated better. But if it was, would we have got the Commander Lilith's Fight for Sanctuary DLC? Not only do you have the domino effect, but who knows? More than likely we still would have, but I always wonder what would have happened if they did finish the pre-sequel. But how do you feel about the pre-sequel, and do you wish it would have got to finish its development cycle? Please leave me your thoughts in the comments section below. But before I get out of here, I am in no way bashing this game. I just think it's very unfortunate the state it was left in, especially given how incredibly underrated it is. And that's really all I've got for you guys today. I hope you all did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to smash a like on it and subscribe if you guys are new. Also, if you're wondering about any potential playthrough type videos, I appear over in Milkman's brand new episode of our Borderlands 2 Hyperion Allegiance run, where we've been playing through the game in co-op with only Hyperion items. This was easily one of the funniest videos I've ever been a part of, and for anybody who's curious, I'll leave a link in the top of the description to that. It's the second episode, but we had some audio issues for a chunk of the first episode, and I think everybody has seen plenty of the early game by this point, so this would serve as a perfect starting point even if you missed the first episode. But yeah, go give that a watch for me and tell them Hellfire sent you. But yeah, man, the pre-sequel is closer to a decade old than it isn't. Time really is fucking flying. I love you all to death, and please take it easy out there, guys. And remember to always be kind. Tell your family you love them. Tell your loved ones you love them. Whether it's your girlfriend, your wife, your significant others, your family, your mom, your dad. Tell them you love them, because I think being kind is important. And, you know, with a lot of negativity in the Borderlands scene here lately, I think it's important to just try and remain positive. I had a good time talking about the pre-sequel today and going back and playing it for today's video. It was just sad to see the spot that it's in, and yeah, man, I really just wish it could have went better. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say, guys. Stay safe out there, and with that, I will see you all in the next one.